what's going on, guys? Vital Syntax here, and I've got a bunch of Battlefield 4 related topics and updates for you guys. The first one is in regards to the recent enormous amount of Battlefield 3 disconnecting issues. You've probably seen messages like disconnected from EA Online when you try and join a Battlefield server. I know I have. It's almost impossible to play. I have to try and join a dozen different servers before I actually get into one, and then when I do, after one game or even before I finish the first match, I get disconnected, and it's really frustrating. It turns out that these disconnect issues are a result of cyber attacks, I'm assuming DDoS attacks, on different game servers. And Battlefield, the official Twitter, has said that they're working on a solution, and they're going to have updates via Twitter and Battlelog, so keep an eye out for that. But right now, in my opinion, Battlefield 3 is almost unplayable, which is really unfortunate. At least on the PC platform, I'm not really sure how people are experiencing it on the consoles. Now, there's two new Battlefield 4 screenshots that were released. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I'll throw them up on the screen. Just two more scenes that were taken from the Fishing in Baku trailer that they released quite a while ago. I'll have a link in the description to the full resolution images if you want to see them, as well as my Breaking in Baku breakdown video where I go over all the new information and different clips that we saw in that original trailer. Another big piece of information in regards to gun licensing, this is kind of a big move that EA is going to be moving towards, is they're ditching the gun license deals where typically first-person shooters actually have to pay licensing fees for certain weapons because they obviously want to have weapons that represent real-life weapons, but those weapons and those designs for those weapons are owned by companies that actually manufacture those weapons, people like Remington or Colt, and they have to pay licensing fees. And, you've seen games in the past, for example, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, they actually have the branding on the weapons. For example, the Remington ACR and the Remington MSR, which is an assault rifle and a sniper rifle, respectively, in Modern Warfare 3, actually have the branding Remington engraved on the side of the gun. But what EA is actually going to be doing is just not paying those license fees because they're going to be trying to claim that it's fair to use these weapon models and these gun designs under fair use. And it technically is. If you look at the section of the copyright law that talks about fair use, the way that they're using it doesn't hurt the market for the weapons. It's they're not using and they're not actually producing a gun. It's a 3D dimensional rendering of a weapon. So it's kind of a gray area as far as that goes, and it's gonna be interesting to see if this leads to legal action by different gun companies, or if EA has to they have to go back and start going back towards the gun licensing. But what does this actually mean for Battlefield? Well, it could mean two things. It could not affect the game at all, but my guess is that it's actually going to allow for the game to have more guns, because in the past, I would imagine that developing something like Battlefield 3, they have to pay a licensing fee for each gun that they design for a certain game. And if they don't have that licensing fee, then there's much less price overhead for designing weapons. They don't have to pay, a licensing fee every time they want to add a new gun, or every time they want to add a new gun in DLC or something along those lines. So that could mean that we see more weapons in Battlefield 4. That would be awesome. Definitely not certain on that. But anyway, moving on to the next piece of information, DICE, Visceral, and BioWare have all been, along with EA, which is obviously the publisher of those three different studios, have partnered with Disney to work on the next generation Star Wars games. So we don't know exactly what that means. Could that mean that Battlefield or Battlefront 3 is going to be finally released? There's actually an hour of leaked footage from Battlefront 3, which was under development for quite a while, and they were almost finished with the project, but then they decided to scrap it at the very end. And I'll have a link in the description to that hour-long footage, which is actually really interesting to kind of watch a game that a lot of people wanted to play that was just never released. But as far as DICE, makers of Battlefield, Visceral, the makers of Dead Space, and BioWare, the makers of Mass Effect, also the makers of The Old Republic, the recent MMO game, this could be really, really awesome. We could see some really awesome Star Wars games coming up very, very soon. Hopefully EA doesn't have any negative effect on these like we've seen in some of their more recent games. EA has been considered the worst company in a couple years in a row now, and hopefully they don't screw up such a franchise like Star Wars, as well as Disney. Hopefully the next generation of Star Wars movies are as awesome, or at least close to as awesome as the originals. Moving on to the next thing, E3. E3 is coming up very soon, and DICE has announced that they're going to be showing off a new game. They're going to be showing off a new EA Sports game and a new BioWare game. Presumably the BioWare game is Dragon Age 3, presumably the EA Sports game is going to be FIFA 14, and obviously the DICE game is going to be Battlefield 4. And the last thing is in regards to the Wii U, if you're a player on the latest Nintendo platform, then unfortunately Frostbite is not going to be supported, at least this next generation of Frostbite games. Battlefield 4, the next generation Mass Effect game, Dragon Age game, and presumably the next gen Star Wars game, which is presumably going to be running on Frostbite as well. And that was something that was tweeted out by Reppy, who's the technical director at DICE. So anyway, that wraps up the latest news in regards to Battlefield. And thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to give me a like or a favorite. Share the video with any other Battlefield friends you have, and I'll see you guys in the next video.